Good evening, friends, and welcome to yet another very interesting session with Desh Kapoor. Welcome, Desh.
Thank you so much, Jaydev. It's always great to be here.
You know, it was a fantastic meeting between Modi and Putin, and they discussed on various key important issues. But the very highlighting and interesting part of this meeting was that both Modi and Putin, they met inside a car, but the car was a Toyota Fortuner instead of the regular Range Rover that Modi ji uses. So, do you see anything more to as to why they chose a Toyota Fortuner? Yes.
Yeah, I think that's a brilliance of Modi with Modi ji actually. So when they traveled to the 7 low Kalyan Marg, at that time they use a white Toyota Fortuner. Now, Fortuner, we all know, is actually the Toyota and Japanese brand. And that, for all practical purposes, I think this Fortuner would have been assembled in Karnataka somewhere. So Make in India narrative also fits there. And it's a non-European brand, which, says very clearly that Putin is not going to drive or align with the Europeans. And so it is in a veiled manner, it is a message to the West from both Putin and from Modi ji. So it had all the I'm pretty sure it had all the security paraphernalia that was required. But the best thing is that they made it they used it in a way that was practical, and the symbolism was also there, both. So practicality was there, and also the symbolism was very pronounced. So it is a Japanese origin, Indian assembled SUV with Putin and Modi ji going around. I think that made a lot of sense, and I think it's time that India actually starts asserting itself, because this whole visit, you should see on X how much of a meltdown there has been from the Americans and from Europeans, and how they have been abusing India and Indians and Modi ji and all that, and of course Putin. They don't realize that the actions in Ukraine by Russia were instigated by what was done in Ukraine by the US and the West. Like in 1990, actually, Soros says in his own, on his own website, georgesoros.com, that I moved into Ukraine in 1990. I set up shop there. It was right after the fall of the Soviet Union, or just before the fall of the Soviet Union, and he set up shop there. And your audience can go and Google about the breakfast with George Pyatt, Pyatt, it was in WikiLeaks, I think, or DC Leaks, and you read the minutes of that meeting, and it shows very clearly George Pyatt was was ambassador in Ukraine for the US, and he basically handed over the keys of entire foreign policy related to Ukraine to George Soros and his organizations. So basically, Soros was the one who was ruling the roost within Ukraine and trying to actually orchestrate that whole place in a way that it would be anti-Russia. And Russia kept on saying, please don't do this, because this is like a buffer. And imagine if Russia were to do something similar in Mexico or Cuba, and we saw what happened in Cuba. But even worse, if they do it in Canada, because that is what it is like. So to say, well, he was just he's a criminal and he has done this and that. I would like to see if Russia does something similar in Canada or in Mexico. Like what happens to US then? What does US do? At that time, they'll go and attack and do whatever it takes. So I think, and then after that, like even now, all the arms and ammunition are still being supplied by the West, and Europeans have the like when they did the Minsk Accord, like it was a fake. And Angela Merkel actually agreed with that. Like she actually stated that very clearly that Minsk Accord was just to buy time so we could attack Russia. Really? So then you want the world to believe that all this is happening because of the evil mind of Putin. He has to save his country, just like you would like to save your country. So you can't blame him for trying to save his country from the obvious attacks from the West. And like after all, like US is still getting all the uranium or a majority of the uranium from Russia, and that is being used for their energy needs. So why can't India use it? Why can't India use the oil and gas? So in that sense, when I think it is the time when the Europeans and the Americans, both media as well as the elites, could go out and just villainize anyone they wanted. And like even with absolute falsehoods and fake stories, because that is what they have done. You go to Iraq War 1. In Iraq War 1, they actually floated this whole story about the incubator babies. That Saddam's army came to Kuwait and threw the kids out of the incubators and they all died. It was a fake story. But they said it within Congress. They actually showed that, shared that through a 16-year-old girl who was a Kuwaiti ambassador's own daughter. And it was a fake story. That's how they sold the first Iraq war. And second Iraq war, we all remember, right? WMD's fake story. If anyone wants a good view, please watch the movie Fair Game, and you will understand what happened at that time. So Iraq won Iraq War 2, and we know what happened in Libya, like when Gaddafi was overthrown. So it is time when they stop all this nonsense, because people do understand. Those who understand, they know. You go and watch John Mersheimer, Professor John Mersheimer. Like he is one of the authorities in geopolitics from University of Chicago. Like he has shared the entire history very clearly. Jeffrey Sachs, who was an advisor to the Ukraine government, he has shared the entire history very, very clearly. So I think it's this whole stuff that they make out about Putin needs to be put into the right context, like at least for the Indians. So in that sense, I think India is pragmatic. India knows what to do with Russia, and that's what they're trying to do.
Yeah. So also the fact that now you have a lot of India has a lot of security threats. Especially with a lot of the Islamist, radical Islamic terrorist groups sitting in Bangladesh and Pakistan, plotting attacks, terrorist attacks. We saw the Red Fort attack, the blast, and also the fact that you have Hafiz Saeed sitting in Bangladesh planning more attacks. You had the doctors. You saw how they plotted the attacks. So, and also the fact that now Asim Munir is the chief of defense forces, isn't it? So India has a lot of security concerns.
Right. And see, the fact is that even in Bangladesh, now we know it's a battleground. Like it's a battleground state now, where the operatives, the intelligence operatives from all the countries like Pakistan and Turkey and even the US are there, and they have been going around doing all kinds of stuff, right? And the interesting thing is this, that in the last 2 or 3 months, around 17 American intelligence operatives or defense contractors have been killed. 7 to 9 Pakistani agents have been killed who had clear links with ISI, and 5 to 6 Turkish intelligence agents have been killed. All this has happened within Dhaka itself. So there is someone or some groups or some countries who have been working to ensure that these operatives, these intelligence operatives, whatever they were planning, because this entire news came out around the time when the news about planning of the attacks on Modi ji also came out. So it's very clear to whoever wants to actually go behind the scenes about what these guys were trying to do. I think from whatever the reports are saying currently, it almost seems like that their entire intelligence network, their grids, their plans have been compromised now. So yes, all these guys were coming together and they were trying to do a lot of things, but it seems that maybe India, Russia, Israel, or somebody like that have been working together to take care of that threat. So so in that sense, Bangladesh has chosen its leaders, like Yunus, have chosen to become a country and a society which gives full and free access to all the intelligence operatives from across the world. Now, if that is what you want, and all that has been done because of their small greed that they have. But if that is what you have chosen, if that is a path that you've chosen for your country, then at some point your karma will come back to bite you, and that's exactly what is happening. So Bangladesh will not be free. In fact, it's one of its generals had recently said that we should break India into pieces. Only then Bangladesh can be peaceful. That idiot doesn't realize that Bangladesh came about because of India. Bangladesh became a piece because of India. So they think that they can actually punch above their weight, and I think time will tell how things will start, hitting them back. So I think in the coming months it will be very much more clearer.